Welcome to the Country Watch Political Intelligence Briefing Quick Hits, a weekly briefing of hot stories across the world in brief. I'm Denise Youngblood Coleman, and I'm the Editor-in-Chief and Senior International Affairs Analyst at Country Watch. The featured country in the Political Intelligence Briefing is the United States. It's been more than 1 month since the presidential election, and President Donald Trump still refuses to concede to the 2020 winner, President-elect Joe Biden. President Trump has been involved in a futile process of trying to undo the election results in certain states on the basis of unproven fraud allegations, even trying to compel electors that voted for Biden to give their electoral votes to him instead. Trump's last remaining efforts to hold on to power were captured in a report on December 5th from the Washington Post that detailed how the outgoing president called Georgia Governor Brian Kemp to pressure him for help overturning Biden's victory in that state. Separately, it was reported in the Michigan media that President Trump's campaign asked Michigan lawmakers to appoint 16 Electoral College members who would award the votes won by Biden to Trump instead. In a third case, the Washington Post reported that Trump called the Speaker of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, Brian Cutler, to demand assistance in reversing his loss in that state. Together, these attempts by Trump constituted an unprecedented attempt by the loser of a presidential election to subvert the will of the people. The next key day to watch would be December 14th, when electors will meet in each state to cast their ballots for president. The results would be tabulated and sent to Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, President-elect Joe Biden was continuing the transition process by naming his health and pandemic management team, as well as General Lloyd Austin as the incoming defense secretary. If confirmed, Austin would be the nation's first Black American to lead the Pentagon. Moving into the wider world, the United Kingdom was readying itself for a no-deal hard Brexit. Prime Minister Boris Johnson was charting the course for the United Kingdom to withdraw from the European Union without a final agreement. Negotiations with the European Union had reached a stalemate. At issue for the United Kingdom were demands by the European bloc, principally advocated by French President Emmanuel Macron, that Prime Minister Boris Johnson viewed as incompatible with British sovereignty. The reality was that after 4.5 years of negotiations between the European Union and the United Kingdom, the two sides were potentially on course for an absolute divorce of sorts without an agreement in place. It appeared that Prime Minister Johnson would have the backing of his cabinet to traverse this rocky path. But some good news emerged, with an agreement in principle being forged for issues including border control posts and the supply of medicines. Separate negotiations to reach a post-Brexit trade deal were still pending. Moving east to the subcontinent, India was being rocked by mass protests in reaction to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's farm reforms. At issue were deregulatory changes that would open up the farm production sector. To this point, farm products have been sold at government-regulated wholesale markets. With Modi's changes, they could be sold to large processing companies and multinational retailers like Walmart. While on the face of it, this move might seem like a positive opportunity for farmers, farming advocacy groups and opposition parties warned that it could clear the way for wholesale markets to be entirely abolished. Abolished along with it could be the guarantees that growers at least receive minimal pricing for staple agro products like rice, wheat, and other grains. Moreover, it would leave small farmers vulnerable to corporate agro-businesses. Punjabi farmers took to the streets outside the capital of Delhi to demand that the Prime Minister reverse his farm reform plan. But despite the mass protests, Prime Minister Modi was undeterred and showed no sign of bowing to the pressure to repeal the farm reforms. Instead, he insisted that deregulation would be beneficial to the farming sector. Finally, on the coronavirus front, the New York Times reported that before the pharmaceutical developer Pfizer announced its success in developing an effective coronavirus vaccine, it offered the Trump administration the chance to lock in supplies beyond the 100 million doses originally agreed upon. The Trump administration passed on that option, and as of December Pfizer would not be able to provide more vaccines to the United States until June 2021 due to the commitments it made to other countries. This quite clearly places the United States' aggressive vaccination schedule in jeopardy. One could say Operation Warp Speed has hit a speed bump. By contrast, the United Kingdom has already begun the process of vaccinations in that country. As a public health reminder, the coronavirus pandemic continues to rage, with the United States seeing some of its most deadly days to date. Be safe, wear a mask, practice prudent social distancing. For more information about these and other stories, read my weekly political intelligence briefing accessible from the front page of the Country Watch website at www.countrywatch.com. Thank you for your time, have a great day, and remember that we live in an interconnected world.